All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We're going to go through the Canada Digital Adoption Program, which is a little bit about the grant itself, and focus most of our time on once you get a pre-approved for that grant, what the process looks like to get your digital adoption plan, and where you kind of take it from there to make sure that you get the grant funding and that you get the interest-free loan if your company is eligible for it. If at any point in time you have questions, please feel free to add them into the chat. The team will be monitoring and pinging me just in case there's a question that comes up to a relevant area. We can do it right then and there, answer any questions that come up, and we'll also have time at the end to go through any kind of Q&A that folks have, general questions about the program or specifics to your organization. So here at Mira, we are a boutique consulting firm. We are solution agnostic, meaning that our role within any client that we work with is to help them get very clear on what their requirements are in terms of their technology stack, what the gaps are in terms of what they currently have, what they might need, not just now, but in the future, and then help them select the technologies that are going to fill those gaps. When I say solution agnostic, we don't sell any licenses, we don't do the back-end configuration, and we don't accept any gifts or monies or any of that kind of thing in recommending a solution, because our role is really to help you pick the technology that works for you. And we want to make sure we're doing that with an unbiased perspective. Our role, apart from just selection of technology, is often in the oversight of adoption. So we act as clients' IT project management and BA team to make sure everyone does what they're supposed to do so that you get the most out of the technology that you pay for. My name's Rachel Radford. I'm the founder and president here at Mira. We have a team that's based in Vancouver. We service across Canada and the US as well. Some of the information that we're going to go through today is specific to the Canada Digital Adoption Program. Any information I'm sharing is based on what I know so far of what the grant is running, how the program is functioning, but there's also going to be links in the deck, which we'll share after the presentation. If you want specifics right from the source, you can go to this link here that's just showing at the bottom, icde.canada.ca, to understand more about how the program is functioning from the federal perspective and how they're managing the program. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what is CDAP, what is the Digital Adoption Plan, which is the output from the grant, the CDAP process that you go through from your perspective, a little bit about our approach as a digital advisor that's been certified under CDAP, a bit about the project timeline that we work with. Ideally, sometimes clients take a less time, more time, and we'll leave lots of time at the end for just general questions that those who've attended have, if there's anything specific that you'd like to learn more about or understand more detail around. So what is the CDAP program? So the Digital Adoption Program was created to support small, medium-sized businesses within Canada in getting more out of their technology, the technology they already have or technology that they would like to bring in to support the organization. There's two streams to it. We're going to talk specifically today about the Boost Your Business Technology stream. The Grow Your Business Online stream is a smaller grant that I think provides about $2,400 towards an assessment of how you're doing digital marketing and lead generation. So another useful grant. The Boost Your Business Technology grant is specific to doing a technology assessment, so a tech stack assessment in your business. What are the technologies that you use today? What should go? What should stay? What net new might make sense to bring in either now or within the next 3 to 5 years? And that is where Mira is a digital advisor for this Boost Your Business Technology grant. So who's eligible for the grant? It is any Canadian-owned for-profit business that has earned at least $500,000 in one of the last 3 years and has between 1 and 499 staff. So it's not meant to be for larger organizations that are over $100 million or over 500 staff. So they've really tried to focus this grant on small to medium-sized businesses in Canada. If there's any questions from folks, just throw them into the chat if you have questions as we go through slide by slide. Happy to answer. So the process, so what does the CDAP program do? We get a lot of questions around how the grant can be used, how it can be applied. CDAP is very rigid around how those funds are meant to be used and towards what end. When the program first started about 2 years ago, there wasn't a ton of clarity around how the grant was supposed to be used. Not a lot of marketing, I think, that really made it clear what the intention of this grant is for. Ultimately, the CDAP grant is specifically for creating a digital adoption plan. So it's not meant to be used for the implementation of digital adoption. It's not meant to be used for purchasing any licenses or software. It's really about doing that technology stack evaluation and a plan on what it should look like for your business over the next 3 to 5 years, timelines, budgets, specific types of systems that you should use in your business, given its size, where it's going, where its growth is, what kind of business it is, that kind of thing. So the CDAP grant provides up to $15,000 to develop a digital adoption plan. The most it will cover is $15,000 and of the cost. So for instance, at Mira, doing a digital adoption plan is $16,600. 90% of that is the $15,000 that's covered by the grant, and it's inclusive of taxes. So that's an all-in number. It also provides, so it provides the $15,000. It provides the marketplace. They've called it the marketplace for digital advisors. So the CDAP grant program has pre-approved, I think, about 300 to 400 digital advisors across Canada. Mira Consulting is one of those. And you can work with any of those that are in the marketplace to complete your digital adoption plan. But it has to be completed by one of the approved digital advisor companies that is in that marketplace. After you've gone through the digital adoption plan creation with a digital advisor and you've submitted it, CDAP we'll go through this in a little more detail, but they'll review that, they'll approve it. That's when they release the funds. And that's the point at which you can go and apply for an interest-free loan. And that's for 5 years, an interest-free loan for that money to be put towards the actual adoption of that plan, so the implementation of it. So that interest-free loan can cover things like the licensing and those types of aspects of the cost of implementation. It's up to $100,000. So if your business has revenue of more than 5 million, you can get 100,000. If it's less than 5 million, then you can get up to $50,000. So they kind of have a break there around your revenue size as to how much interest-free loan they will allow for you to apply for. The other piece that is helpful within this program is a $7,300 wage subsidy. And this is to support you hiring someone who's going to administer or be a part of the system implementation side of things. So if, for instance, in the digital adoption plan, it said you should get a customer relationship management software, the interest-free loan can help pay for the license and any configuration costs associated. And then the wage subsidy could help you hire someone who's going to administer that system and use it and track it and help you manage your pipeline. So there's different subsidies that and grants that can kind of come into play, and they all work together to try and help you implement a technology strategy. So what is a digital adoption plan? So the CDAP grant is really all about this one deliverable, and it's about getting this deliverable for your organization, and it needs to be very specific to you. So the first part of a digital adoption plan is about a business overview. So it's really an assessment, a highlight of what is happening within your organization. And it's mandated that this has to be into the digital adoption plan. So sometimes we have questions about, why is this kind of information in here? I know it. I don't need this included in the plan, but this is something that CDAP requires. It's a part of what they're reviewing and looking for when you submit your final package. So you do want to make sure that these things are in here. Whether you work with us or anybody else, make sure that these parts do make it into the plan to approve it when they receive it. So that business overview helps us as your digital advisor understand what is happening in the current state of the business. What are the processes that are a challenge for you that maybe technology could help address? What is happening within the technologies that you're using today? Are there gaps? Are there security threats within any of those that you're using? Are there areas of those technologies that you could do more with without paying more money? Is there ways to leverage what you already have further? So we do that assessment, and that's the first part of a digital adoption plan that we go through with you as the client. The second part that's in that final deliverable is the analysis and recommendations. So that is, again, there's certain things that are mandated by CDAP about what has to go into this final deliverable. And one of those is that any recommendations we make about a technology or an implementation partner or a piece of hardware we think that you need to purchase from a technology perspective, we need to always include three. So if, for instance, I say, your organization would really benefit from digital marketing, I need to include three different types of platforms or implementation vendors. I can't just say one. And that's to really make sure that we're not giving you a biased, hey, buy this one thing that we think is going to hit the mark. We need to give you options to go and evaluate to make sure that you're making the right choice for you. So if, for instance, we're going to recommend a certain type of software, a financial management system, I can't say just this one that we think is going to be the perfect fit. I have to mention three. I cannot highlight that there's only one particular one or that one is preferred in the plan at all. If we're working together and we're doing the project with you and we do think for some reason that there's only one that's going to fit the bill, then at that point we can verbally say that to you, but it's not something that we can put in the report itself. The last part that goes into the report is the implementation roadmap. And this roadmap is really saying, okay, all of these recommendations that we've made, what order do they need to go in? What kind of time frame is it going to take for you to do this well? And what kind of budget is it going to cost for this to be implemented and maintained within your organization? Just so that you have a lot of clarity around the order in which things need to go, because sometimes with tech, there is a reliance on one another. So the CDAP process, from your perspective, if you're going to apply for the grant, the first thing that you would want to do is apply for the grant itself. When you go through that application process, you go and apply, you answer a lot of questions about your business. They might get you to do a technology assessment, answering a bunch of questions about kind of where you're at today. They'll ask you to link to your business bank account. In going through this process, you're also going to need a GC key. So this is something that you can apply for online if you don't have it already. Most businesses have it if they've ever applied for a grant before. It's something that they use to track through CRA against your business, what you're applying for and how you're using like federal funds and things like that. So all of that happens within that apply for a grant place. They will review your application. It's usually pretty quick. Anytime that we've had a client say that it's taken a really long time to apply for this grant, it's usually because the owner from CRA's perspective is not the person that's doing the application. And then it takes a lot longer if you're using somebody who's a signing authority but is not an owner. So just something to note there. Once you've applied for the grant, they'll review your application and then they will say you have been pre-approved. Then they will let you see a marketplace of digital advisors. You don't actually select your digital advisor in the marketplace. You just kind of reach out to the people that you're interested in talking to. You have discussions with different digital advisors. And then once you've picked the one that you want to work with, you would sign a proposal with that digital advisor. But none of that happens in the portal for CDAP. It all happens outside of it. Once you have selected your digital advisor, you sign the agreement with them, then, for instance, if you're working with us, Mira works with you to understand that piece around, what is happening within your business? Where are you trying to go strategically? How can we help you get there from that technology roadmap perspective? We do all of that work with you to create the digital adoption plan. Once that's completed, that's the point at which, at least for Mira, and this is different for different digital advisors, once we've completed the digital adoption plan is the point at which we invoice. So it doesn't happen in advance, it happens after all of the work is done. And that that digital adoption plan, that final deliverable, plus our invoice is the next time that you actually go back into the portal and you submit both of those documents. CDAP then reviews the digital adoption plan. They review the invoice that's come from the approved digital advisor, and then they approve it. If they have any feedback, and it's pretty rare that they do, but if they have any feedback about what is in the plan, they would come back to you and say, we need the address to be changed because it's not your CRA address or it's not your CRA legal name. That's the only feedback we've ever had from them, but they do review the entire thing. If they had any recommendations or things that don't comply with their checklist, they don't reject you. They just give you that feedback, and then you would come back with the adjusted digital adoption plan. So that's the point at which they're approving it. And then once they approve it, then you get the funding. The $15,000 gets deposited directly into your bank account. And for our clients, we give the invoice at the end in the hopes that that lines up with when they're receiving the funding so that you're not in a cash flow pinch. So that's kind of why we do the invoicing at the end in our process, at least. Other digital advisors might do it differently. The next piece after that, the CDAP part is done. The digital adoption plan is complete and submitted, reviewed, the funding's been released. That is the point at which you can apply for the interest-free loan. You can't beforehand. They need to have the digital adoption plan as a part of that application process. So I think we've had some other folks that have joined. Just so that you know, if you have questions as we go through the slides, please feel free to just add them into the chat and we'll make sure that we get to them throughout the whole piece, and we'll do Q&A at the end as well. In terms of our process, so when we're looking back at create, so creating the digital adoption plan, that third step is this series of steps. So for this one, the first thing that we do is an introductory call with you. And once you're approved or before you're approved, whichever way you want to do it, to answer any questions you have about the CDAP program, about how we do it as a digital advisor, our process through it, what the end deliverable looks like, any of those things. So we always start with kind of an introductory call so that you know what our process looks like, and we both know if there's a good fit in terms of us being your digital advisor or not. The next piece is we send over a proposal to be your digital advisor. We have a call usually to kind of walk through that document, make sure it all makes sense, that their terms and conditions all make sense, see if you have any questions or anything that needs to get adjusted within there. We also send off a kickoff package at that time. And whether you work with us as your digital advisor or someone else, the kickoff package can be used either way. It collects a bunch of background information about your organization, about pieces that actually need to fit into the digital adoption plan in that business overview section that's in the plan. It just collects a bunch of background. So it serves a couple of purposes. One, it prepares us and our team to understand a bit more about your business before we actually kick off and get into it. So it just speeds up the process from that perspective. And it also answers some questions and some things that need to go into that final digital adoption plan, just about the business overview section. So it serves both purposes for us. It also gets you thinking about what are the technologies we use, what are the challenges within it, so that by the time we even get to the project kickoff, people in your organization and yourself are already thinking about what are we using, what isn't working, what do we need to talk about? Because oftentimes there's technologies that you're using that you kind of have forgotten about, or that maybe you don't know your team is using because they've gone and purchased it or are using a free version of it or things like that. So it gets you thinking about what is the technology stack today and what are the challenges. During the kickoff call with yourself, with other team members that are going to be involved in the process, that's when we book all of the discovery sessions as well. So we do the kickoff, we make sure everybody on your team knows what we're doing, what the end deliverable is meant to be about, and then we book the discovery sessions with all of the subject matter experts that are in the different areas of your business. So if, for instance, you are using QuickBooks as a financial management tool, and you have a bookkeeper or somebody else on your team that's managing that, we want to do a discovery session with them to understand how they're using QuickBooks, what version, what add-on applications, are they getting the most out of it? So we'd want a discovery session with the person that's kind of managing your finances. If you have someone in sales, if you have someone in operations, if you have, different folks that are fulfilling different business areas and they're using different technologies, we probably want to have discovery sessions with different folks just to make sure that we're not missing anything in terms of an area of improvement. The next piece is around developing recommendations. So with those discovery sessions, with that kickoff, we're having those first couple of meetings in the first week or two. We also want to book a weekly meeting with yourself and any other really core members of your team that are participating in this process. And those meetings that happen weekly throughout the project are really for us to make sure that we are updating you on all of our findings and recommendations week by week as they happen so that there's no surprise at the end. And so that if there's anything that we aren't recommending that you think might be something that you need, for instance, if you have a on-site server, you think it's going to be end of life, you need it to be replaced, but that's not something that's a part of what's come up in conversations with discovery sessions. We do want to make sure that you have an opportunity to tell us in those weekly sessions other things that you've been thinking about or questions that you have, so that anything you might want to do in the next 3 to 5 years gets into that final plan. So we develop those recommendations. We're sharing those with you during the weekly sessions in case there's any questions, in case there's anything that you want to kind of add or tweak within what we're recommending or ask about as we're making recommendations. And then we finalize the plan with you and we do a final presentation where we walk through that digital adoption plan, which is the final deliverable you submit back to CDAP. And we want to bring you along the whole way so that you're always asking questions, you always know why we're making the recommendations we do, and if there's anything that's a recommendation that is missed just because it hasn't come up in conversation or is something that you uniquely want to do that we might not think is a recommendation we would make, but it's something that is important to you, we want to make sure that we're having that conversation, and those weekly sessions are a way to do that. So a general project timeline, we tend to do these projects within 4 to 6 weeks. Some clients want them to be done faster just because of a situation that's happening for them. There's urgency around it. They have like a lull in their operations and they have some extra time on their hands. They might say, okay, can we do this in 3 to 4 weeks? Can we just kind of go through it because we have capacity right now? But most clients do it kind of in the 4 to 6 week timeline. Some take longer, which is totally fine too. It really depends on your capacity and how much time you can kind of put towards this. Or if there's something that hits your business, it really, sidetracks you from doing something like this, we can put a pause in place. I think that's only happened once out of 40 projects, but if it's necessary for your business, we can be flexible there too. There's 4 components to it. The project leadership is us having those weekly meetings, us making sure that the final report is actually getting built out week by week. It's not something that we do at the end. We're doing it the whole way through. Business and technology current state is the first kind of 2/3 of the time working with you, is really understanding what is going on in the business. And during that time, if we're identifying any recommendations that we would make from a technology perspective, we would be building them into the plan right out of the gate. The other part that might come up, because we also do, as a part of our general practice outside of CDAP, operations optimization. So if there's anything that we're identifying that is maybe a hindrance to your business processes or is a training gap in your staff, it's not CDAP related. We're not allowed to put it in the report, but we will verbally tell you during the weekly meetings, because if we see anything, we want to make sure that you're aware. And then at the very end, we're finalizing that implementation roadmap. We're building it out the whole way through, as I said before, but at the very end, we want to do that final report that's going to get submitted to CDAP, and we're going to do that final kind of tweak to the roadmap in terms of what needs to happen in what order, with what budget, with what timeframes associated. All right. That is most of what we wanted to talk through today to give you a sense of the application process, what working with us looks like in the digital adoption plan creation. I can stop our recording now and we can open it up to Q&A.